So here we're redoing the UV map because the model up to this point has been altered so much it's necessary. So I start with the headlight bezels there actually, and those are not actually unwrapped properly here. You'll see in a minute that even though I'm going to put them into the UV layout properly, the rest of the UV map, once I select all of the steel parts, I still have these orphaned lines off to the lower left corner there. So rather than figuring out what's up there, it's better just to redo the whole thing. But I'll base it on the original layout. So you see I select the largest parts first and then move them into place. And this will have to be cleaned up later because the whole shape of the model has changed somewhat since I originally did the layout. So this looks like a mess now, but it will look better in a few minutes. This actually constituted about 50 some odd minutes of work, just because it's very tedious, but I figured that rather than looking for the flaws in the UV map, which could take any amount of time, I more or less knew that I could do a UV map in about an hour. And I beat that timetable. And here for you, this video is less than 10 minutes. So here I'm moving. I believe this is the part of the body just below the front end. Some of these parts I can recognize and some of them I can't, which sounds stupid until you've actually tried this. It can sometimes be very, very difficult identifying a part on a UV map. And this is why it's good to label your textures, or at least your XCF files or Photoshop files when you're making the textures, so that you know exactly what you're working on and don't forget. So here I'm working on the lights, some of the smaller parts, moving them into place. They're a little bit easier to identify. They don't look like anything else. Now the tail lights. I was very lucky to get these in the correct locations in the first try because the inner ones with the reverse gear lights look exactly the same as the ones on the outside which don't have them. Now I'm going to skip through them though because this is tedious to save some time. So do the first one and then I will skip directly on this video to the last one. Now they're all in place. Then the directional bezel. They go over here. Front directional bezels, of course. This took a little bit of effort to get scaled and positioned right. As I said, the parts don't always look the same on the UV map as on the model. Now those headlight bezel outlines again have to be moved. Ultimately, the position is new because they're a different shape anyway. Another large part. This is just under the rear end there. This will have to be rotated. Most likely resized as well from the look of it. Then I go into the little bits and pieces here. Try to match them to the original layout as closely as possible so I can see the equivalents on the old layout there. Select Control L is your friend when you're doing this, of course, because the number of vertices that have to be selected and moved. And as I said, even then it took me about 50 minutes to do this. So these are the rear view mirrors, or rather the side mirrors, if you really want to be pedantic about it. And the headlights. Select Control L as before, speeding things up. Unfortunately, you can't do that if you don't have marked seams in the right place. That's why it's good to mark your seams correctly on the original model. And in earlier tutorials, you saw me doing that. I think actually it was my very first tutorial on the exterior. Originally, this was never meant to be a tutorial series, actually. I decided that this would be an ideal demonstration of Blender, at least at the most basic level. And while I was at it, I figured I'd build a car for Street Rod 3, which, as I've said, will probably be used for a few other things as well, even if Street Rod 3 never sees the light of day. So here we have the, I believe, license plate brackets on the rear end, basically bits and pieces again. And I'm going to jump ahead here because this is going to get incredibly tedious otherwise. So here most of the bits and pieces have been moved into place, and so I'm going to do the license plates. You'll see more on these in a later tutorial. I'm not going to go extremely detailed with them, but I am going to do them properly. But first they have to be in their correct locations on the UV map here. And meanwhile, I have to move some of the other parts out of the way. Now this is one of the bars from the grill. I'm going to have to make this the same size as the others for the sake of order later, but in this case I was not sure if that's exactly what I was dealing with. I was second guessing myself throughout this project because it just seemed like I better play it safe because a lot of this can be very counterintuitive. In the end it turned out to be one of the bars from the grill, so you'll see in a later tutorial that I fixed that. So that's it. Thanks for watching.